Cuckoo. We're Isabel and Kim, girlfriends living in France and chatting about everything going on in our lives. Come hang out with us while we cheers with an Aperol Spritz, swap stories, get into some deep talks, and share what we've learned along the way. If you like the podcast, make sure to leave us a review and subscribe and follow us on Instagram at cuckoo.pod. Hi, Kim.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Excited for us to be able to chat. We had both had busy weekends. So
Yeah, busy
it's
weekends.
Really nice to be. This is the first day I've been at home without a sick child. So it's been.
Oh, we got hit with the back to
virus.
school bugs. We've got
Yes.
lice and back to school bugs. We haven't caught lice.
Oh, we haven't
so
caught
far.
lice either, but I'm using that spray.
Me too. I'm using the spray too.
Before school. And it smells really bad, like bug spray, but I don't even care.
See, I have a natural one that smells like lavender, which means it probably doesn't work.
Well, I'm erring on the side of like, we are not going to get lice.
Me too. But I did pick my daughter up yesterday and she was deep in play with like person one of the outbreak. And I was like, I hope it's gone.
I keep telling my kids, just don't touch their hair. And they look at me like, how strange.
Like, why would I touch their
hair? But I do think,
So funny.
I was saying to a client the other day that more and more people here like get things that we sort of forget about in the US. Like, I think lice, like you stay home from school if you have lice in the US, whereas like the kids are allowed to go to school here. So then it just like perpetuates lice everywhere.
Chicken pox.
And chicken
Scarlet
pox was
fever.
the other one. And scarlet fever. I'm like, what? Aren't these like outdated?
I feel like I'm in Laura Ingalls.
Since we're both reading up to our daughters. So anyways, I was saying to a client that like there's just different types of illnesses that we thought were eradicated and they're not here. And it's also obviously people from all over that we interact with. So that could be part of it. But,
yeah, totally.
But yes, I'm glad both of our kids are feeling better.
I know. And we usually record Monday mornings. And today it is Wednesday.
Yes.
Which is a half day. So we're recording in the morning and then our daughters do swimming together.
Yeah,
so
which is
we
fun.
head to school.
I know. It's very cute. And my son does rock climbing. So they do kind of Wednesday afternoons in France are sort of a activity centric time for lots of like children to sign up for whatever they're most interested in. So
my daughter this morning was like, oh, but I'm so tired. I don't want to go to school. And my day is like this, like holding her hands out. She's like, school, swimming. And then she goes to gymnastics.
Gymnastics. It is kind of busy for her.
It's busy time.
Yeah. Well,
but I prefer that and just having the weekends with nothing.
Yes, I know. That's actually what we do now. It's like Wednesdays are kind of jam packed, but I'm trying not to do too much on the weekends so that we can actually have some free time. So
I think it's the way to go.
Yes.
Okay. So today we thought we could talk about freelancing.
Yes.
Or working for yourself. We've gotten so many messages about Kim and what she does for work. And we were kind of talking about it and realized both of us work for ourselves.
Yes.
And I don't know what you think, but personally, I think it is such a nice thing for women to be able to be their own boss and work for themselves, because I think in most homes, the mom is like already running something. So if you have a boss and you have to be on all these different things, I feel so grateful to be able to work for myself, because I think it gives me the freedom to handle a lot of the stuff at home that I want to handle too.
For sure.
So I thought we could sort of just talk about that and like barriers to entry, how to do it, pros and cons. And I don't know, it seemed like a lot of you guys, it's something you've thought about or maybe you already do.
Yes.
So we just thought we could talk about that.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I can get started because I want to open this up with like, I don't think it's without like being very deliberate and making a conscious decision to like, if you're in corporate America or if you're in some sort of like steady paying, 5 days a week type of job, to like sort of end that and decide to freelance or to like start your own company or whatever version of that, I think is actually it seems really scary at the time. Like for me, I was like, what? I don't like, how would I even do this? Like, how am I going to get clients? Like, what am I going to do about money? Like, am I even, and then you kind of go through imposter syndrome. Like,
am I qualified?
Yeah.
Am
I qualified for this? Like, why would someone bring me on as like a, consultant, et cetera, or as like a freelancer? So I think I think you have to be sort of like in the mindset of, I'm willing to try this for a while, and if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to my steady kind of career. I think for me, sometimes I think things sort of have to go wrong. I know that sounds bad, or just like that you're really unhappy. Like you almost,
yep.
And you and I were talking about this. Like, do you have to reach a breaking point before you decide to make like a pretty big decision? And I at first, when you and I were talking about that you have to reach a breaking point, I'm like, no, like people should just do this. And now I'm like, I feel like when I've made bold decisions, there has been like, I wouldn't call it like a complete meltdown, but a breaking point of
like something that brought you to consider something else.
Yes. Where I was much more open-minded to it than I think I would have been. And I probably could have like trotted along in corporate America and done well and been fine. But there was something, so COVID hit, I was at a startup I was very unhappy at, and I had 2 kids under 2. It was kind of like a breaking point of like a million things at once. And I was like, and my husband was working a million hours. And I was like, something's really not working here. And I think it took me to that moment of like, I'm really unhappy. Like I don't feel like I'm being a very good mom for my kids. And I like really want to be able to like work, but do it differently and do it like on my terms, not I'm on Slack or I'm constantly responding to things or like I'm on 24/7 worrying about like a company and everyone else sort of, I would say like putting demands on me versus me putting demands on myself of like what I want to do. And so I made a conscious decision. I took some time off. I thought about this and I just started like really talking to people who were doing this. Like this sounds so silly, but like I would reach out to people on LinkedIn that like I knew like from previous companies that had left and just would ask for like 30 minutes to just chat about like how they got started, like what kind of, clients they were getting, how they got clients, how they were billing, how they made money, like just every question that I had. I just started basically networking pretty broadly of trying to figure out like, could this make sense for me? And I ended up realizing like, I think I can make this work. And I think it takes like someone also to believe in you sometimes when you don't believe in yourself. And so I had this woman who had been freelancing. We were both at Sephora together. She had left a couple years before me and she was on the product development side. And she's like, do you know how many clients I have that need marketing help? Like, would you be interested in partnering with me on, I'll do all the product development. And these were mostly for small beauty companies. And
so cool.
She's like, and you can do the marketing side. And I was like, are you sure? Like, and she's like, you were awesome at your job. Like, she kind of like
hyped you up,
when I needed it. And so we did the first one together. And I remember completely undercharging and working like 3 times the amount of hours because I was like, oh, I have to do this so well and they're paying me this and et cetera. So I kind of got in my own head, but then I did that and the client was really happy. And she and I kind of partnered together at first to just like continue to do this type of work. And I realized that like, I really liked it. Like I felt like I had something for myself. I got to work on my own terms and hours. I was doing the work of marketing that I actually enjoyed doing. And it was kind of nice at the time to have her as like someone I could bounce ideas off and just kind of give you that like confidence boost to be able to feel good like about the work you're presenting and giving to a client. So that's how I got started. And then I just continued from there. Like it's really interesting. I think the network effects of like you work with one person and then they know this person. Yeah. And like, then I started consulting in all different industries. Like I was in the Bay Area. So like I started with like a consumer tech company and then I met a bunch of other great freelancers there and then they go other places and then they bring you along. And so it becomes like a virtuous cycle of getting work. Like my husband always jokes. He's like, you started this, but you've never marketed it. And you're like a branding person and you never even created
We're also really good at
your own brand.
So
but it's just funny.
Helps.
It's like,
but no, I completely agree. And I also think along with the network effect, people are just so happy to help.
Yes.
People just so happy to help. I feel like I've been reaching out to people lately for the prop baby stuff and everyone is just so happy.
It's so true.
To help and connect.
Yes.
And it's really true. Like I think when you're not networking, it feels intimidating.
Yeah.
But it's like if you could just like make the first call or send the first cold email,
yes,
you'd be surprised at what people will say back. And of course, like some people don't answer and I get so much like kind of spam in my inbox. Sometimes it's hard to tell, but just someone will answer and then that will lead you to somewhere else.
Yes,
and I
for
feel
sure.
like people are just really happy to help and happy to get you going and give information for free. I think a lot of times people are like, oh, you have to like learn this. And there's so much that you don't learn in school or you don't learn at your job
for sure.
when you work for yourself.
Yes.
And you can kind of forget that there's other people who do this.
And there's other
all
people
day long, and they've already figured it out. And usually they're so happy to help share what they've learned.
For sure. And that's what I found. Like people were more than happy to like share like the good and bad and like what they went through at first. And like I think it just helps set up like to make you feel okay about what you're getting into, knowing also other people have gone through the same sort of like mental exercise that you have when you're starting something. So for me, it's been almost 4 years I've been doing this on my own. And I would say like there's times in your career when you can do it, and there's probably times when it doesn't make as much sense. So like I think for me, I've been working like 15 to 20 years now. So like I have a range of experience at like startups and large companies, but I wouldn't let that like get in your way. If you have 8 years of experience or 10 years of experience, if you're really good at what you do and you've been able to like kind of prove that like in a way that I think especially at like bigger companies or smaller companies where you're being nimble or working with different types of people, I wouldn't let that like get in the way. You know, I think the only time I would say, at least for what I do when I'm prefacing, it's like when you first start your career, like if you're right out of college, it's probably a little bit harder to like.
I would even say after like 5 years, if you've had like good experience, like if you have like for instance, if you do social media stuff.
Oh, totally.
Like
that
you know the things that you need to know if you work in social media.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, things keep changing, but it's not like that huge of a scope. Like you could totally do like a little social media.
Oh, for sure.
Agency, that kind of stuff.
And people I think are more than hungry to hire like young freelance social media. Like I am always on the lookout for someone that's really great at that.
No, it's so true. Like there's certain things where like being young is such a positive.
And
I've also noticed like from people that I've worked with, like honestly, the younger the better, because they're so
up on it and
so,
hungry.
Like, they're hungry. They're like know what's going on. They're like feel the pulse. I start to feel a little bit like a grandma. Like,
I know.
Do you know what I mean?
Same, for sure.
Like they just know what's cool.
Of
they
course,
know stuff, so.
Of course, yes. So.
But I do agree with you. Like I do think you need to have some kind of specialty or like something that you can sell. Because if you haven't figured out what your niche is yet, I think it could be hard to branch into freelancing, because
for sure,
you know, you have to have the confidence to sell yourself, and if you don't feel like you have all of the experience,
it's probably not going to go as well as you would hope.
You could wait a little bit longer.
For sure. But I think it is something, the perks, like what I enjoy about it is like I feel like I have control over my life, my clients, like my hours, and not always. Look, like sometimes it just depends on what you're taking, but as a like working mom, it's amazing. Like if I agree. Like when we were living in California, like I used to just block like a couple hours, like when I wanted to like take my daughter to like a swim class, and I could actually go, versus when I was like on the clock, like with a company, it's impossible to just break away for a few hours. And you can kind of work when you want to work. That's good and bad. And I want to hear about your experience with that. But for me, it's like, definitely been the best career decision I've made, and it's allowed us to actually live here and me to be doing this from France. So I think it's definitely like a positive all around. The downsides I would say are it can be inconsistent in terms of money. Like if you are usually you get paid like after the fact, and so it's not like it's immediate, like every 2 weeks you get a paycheck.
Yes.
So we can talk about that. And then I think my other downside is I'm like the type of person that I'll just take on more and more and more, thinking I can like, oh, well, they want me. And so that's great. They need help. Like, and I want to be able to help. But sometimes like I have gotten to a point where I overextend.
Yeah.
And then I'm really stressed. It's not serving the main purpose of why I went into this, which is like to have better control over my time and hours and spend time with my family. And then it gets out of control. And so I think it's a constant
like personal you have to have
you have to have
boundaries.
really good boundaries, and you have to be able to not be like so emotionally involved with every client, because if you end up having like at one point I had 4 at a time, and my head was like spinning, and then I was like caring so much about every single one that it was harder to like focus and be present like with my family, because I was like, I've got this and that. So I think you've got to find the right balance.
I think that's actually a really good point, because it's like you're then carrying on all of these relationships.
And they're in, sometimes for me, they were in like drastically different industries. Like I'd be going from like beauty to like tech to like apparel, and it was like, whoa, what am I? And you get a little lost in your head.
No, I could see it. So. I would be in like fog soup in that situation. I don't think I could do that.
But let me hear about because you also made a big jump.
I mean, if I'm being honest, I think if I stayed in the US, like I probably would have been a dietitian. And you know what? Probably I would have done my own practice at some point.
Okay.
I do think I probably would have done something by myself at some point, just because I sort of have a problem with authority. I hate being told what to do. I hate being told where to go. I don't know what it is. I've sort of always been like that. Yeah. Like if someone tells me what to do, I'm doing the opposite. Like I just
so you don't want a boss.
I do not want a boss. Like, and I always like when I was growing up, like felt like my mom was my boss, and like we had a lot of tension because I was like, I don't need a boss. Like I know what I'm doing.
Even when you're young.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I just always knew what I wanted to do.
I'm like so the opposite. Like people are always like, you like being told what to do. I was like, sometimes I do like being told what to do, but not in my career anymore. Like I'm past that point.
I can't be told what to do.
Yeah.
So for me, for that type of personality type, it's great because I'm happy to tell myself what to do.
Yeah, totally. Because you think you know best, of course.
So when you're your own boss, you get to decide for yourself.
Yes.
And I think for me, like the combination of that plus the flexibility it gives me with being able to be around with my daughter all the time and work from, maybe when I was younger it would have been different, but since I've had a child, I couldn't imagine going into an office to work.
It's really hard.
I love working from home. I love being able to like be in my sweatpants or my pajamas or on the couch with my computer. And to me, I'm so efficient like that. I can get a lot of stuff done when I'm comfortable in my own space.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a great part of it.
Yes.
I would say the downsides are, especially because a lot of the work I do is on my phone.
Oh, right. You're always on your phone.
I'm always on my phone. And like and it's just tough because so much of the stuff I do is on my phone. So I have to be on my phone. And I really don't like being on my phone a lot. Yeah. But the tough thing is too, then like my company's in the US. And so a lot of my calls are then at like, kind of like what you're doing now. Like the day kicks off at dinner time, after school dinner time, bedtime.
Yes.
And it can be very hard to put the boundaries there to not be so available.
Yes.
And it can also be a little bit frustrating too, because it's like in the morning, I'm ready to go.
Oh, me too. I'm like, all right, let's
make these decisions. Right. But the reality is in business, like you have to have other people around to make decisions. And so if I don't take the time to make those decisions during that time sometimes, then I can't move forward the next day. So I roadblock myself. So I think for me, that's probably the hardest part, just the creating the boundaries. And also like there's no like stopping work. But I feel like in general now, even with corporate jobs in the US, like people are getting emails
24/7, and or it's not even just emails, it's like Slack or Teams or some sort of it's basically like texting constantly.
But like that's
with
like,
a million people, like it's stressful.
That part I think is also can be a little difficult, but at the same time, like I'm often like so happy on Saturday morning when my daughter's watching cartoons to like catch up on some emails. And it's fun. You know, when you're doing your own stuff and you have control over it, it doesn't feel like work. Yeah. You know, it feels like, it just feels good and fulfilling.
That's great.
So I like that part. The other hard part is definitely the financial aspect of it. At least with the freelancers we work with Prop Baby, they usually have on their contracts, like you have to pay within 7 days of their invoice.
Okay. So that helps.
And I always pay like right away because
you know,
my invoices for the influencer stuff they'll put like 30 to 90 days.
Oh my gosh.
And it just gets hard because you can have a good month, but then you can have a month. And I also I don't want to be an influencer that's doing a brand deal all the time, trying to push sales stuff on people. Like that's really not my end game on this. I do, if I get offered one for a company I love, I'll take it.
For sure.
That said, like you have some months that are better and some months where are like you don't do a brand deal. Yeah. And then so you can kind of get in these months where like you really, when you get a bigger month, you have to be very careful to put up most of it in savings and save it for those tighter months. So I feel like learning that balance is difficult too. And I don't think I've totally mastered that, especially with my recent US tax bill and paying sometimes 60% taxes as a freelancer
hard, in France. Like I know with the taxes, that's very tricky.
So I really, just to go back to something you said at the beginning, I do think it has to be done like with like conviction
and intention.
That's the word you said.
Yeah.
Because there are obviously like big effects, and especially in the US with health insurance. Like,
yes.
I don't think you can realistically, if you're in a couple, have both people in the couple go out to do freelance at the same time, because, you know, the reality is like you need health insurance.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's always, if you feel like it's something that you want to do, like there's always a way to do it, even if it seems impossible thinking about it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
for sure. And like, look, it's going to be scary. Like, I think you just have to sort of say that, but know that you can do hard things and you can try it. And like, you could try it, like give yourself 6 months and say like, I've saved enough for 6 months and I'm going to try this, and I'm going to like, and some of this can be done while you're like still at your full-time job,
like
right?
The
like the setup, the prep, the like
networking
for sure. Like all that, so that you feel better, like going into it.
Yeah.
And then if you don't love it, like, you know, you can, I think there's possibilities of getting back in, especially after a year. Like I think I was so caught up in that, like, how's this going to look on my LinkedIn profile? And what if it's a whole year? And like, I actually realized like, I think I would have more to offer now to a full-time company, because I've seen so much and done so much in like an amount of time that you just wouldn't get at like a company. And I think the way you kind of can tell that story is actually really beneficial over someone who's kind of been in that same type of role at a company.
And as someone who's like hiring you, if you see someone who's done the same job for 15 years versus someone who's like done the same job as experience, but then like went out on their own, tried something new, like just the fact that they've tried something new and had different experiences, that's like such a green flag, I feel like, for other companies. And I think it's definitely an easy narrative to say like, oh, if I leave this job, like I'll never have something like that. But I also think that life is very much like, sometimes you have to close a door for other doors to open. And there's been so many times in my life or my husband's life or just people I know's lives that like they've said like, oh, this will never work. And then they kind of take the plunge. And then what do you know? Like the next week, like you get a random email from someone like, oh, like blah, blah. You just never know. And I feel like the universe like really doesn't reward you for not trying the things that you want to try. And when you do try them, I do think that there's like some like energetic karmic stuff that happens. I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm very actually, much like spiritual like that. And I really believe in the energy stuff.
Yeah.
But I've just always had those experiences in my life. It's like if I want something and I go for it, like the doors, the right doors, I put in the effort, but then the doors do open.
Yeah. And I think like I also believe in like the universe, like providing the right things. And like, but I'm also like, if you don't take a risk, like what have you done your whole, like you wake up and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm this age and I've been at this job and I've been not happy. Like I think for me, like just a personal story about like my husband, like he was in investment banking for a long time. And it was really straining on like our marriage, our family life, on his like mental state. And if he was like, I really love it and I'm passionate about it, like that's a totally different story. But he wasn't. And therefore, like the easy thing would have been like, oh, we've already got the house, the schools, like we're in San Francisco, like we're just gonna like do it until we retire, right? And then we'll enjoy our retirement, right? Yeah. Like, and that would have been, I think, in my head sometimes like, oh, that seems like the path that you just do because it's like what you know, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like it was so much more rewarding to get off that path, even if it was like really freaking scary, and it was for
and
both
bumpy
of us. And bumpy and like uncomfortable for him, for me, for like our family, and then obviously like taking a big move here was also like that kind of. But I could not imagine doing this any differently looking back now at like a year and a half after, and just the way like he and I think about things, or just like how we approach life is like much. I just think it's like much healthier than how we were approaching it like then, where you just sort of head down because it's what you see everyone else do.
But you also like, it's super intense working like that and having young children. Yeah. And if you don't just put your head down and blast through stuff,
I know you're
like, how do you get through the day? And that doesn't leave so much like open, relaxed, creative, like at least for me, like
totally
when I'm like very stressed, there's so much to do. Like I'm having zero ideas.
Oh, for sure. Me
my
too.
ideas pop into my head when I've had like a good night of sleep. Yes. I'm like in the
maybe you
doing
got to
something
exercise.
I like.
Yeah,
like
something.
that's when you start to have like those ideas. So if you are really stuck in that like cycle of like, it's very hard to get out.
I agree.
And it feels good when you get out.
You're going to face a lot of resistance. Like I think this is something else I want to bring up, because when you tell people that like you're going to quit your corporate job or your husband's going to, like people really have a hard time with this of not, I would say fewer people are supportive than are.
Because it brings up something within themselves.
Correct. And you don't even realize, but they're putting it on you as like, or even I would say parents. Like, I think this is probably very hard for my parents to understand. Like, especially like my dad, like but he loved his job, but like, it's like you work for someone, you get paid, and you do that until you retire. And that is not, there's nothing wrong with that if you're happy doing that. But neither my husband nor I were happy doing that. And like, I think at some point you get to like a place where you have, like, if you never question and you never are curious, like, why am I doing this? Like, what is this bringing me? What's my like end game? And if it's like to get to 65, like, yikes.
Yeah.
I mean, that feels, now
like
that
just
feels
to get
like
there.
Really icky, you know? So I think, look, you're going to face resistance and it's going to be hard, but I think the payoff, at least for me, I'm only speaking about myself and my husband, has been really, really worth it. So the one thing I did want to come back to though, on your money conversation. And this is, I think, a question we get of like, and I get this a lot when I talk to people who are looking to like do their own thing or start their own consulting or freelancing, is like, how do you bill? Like, what do you like? Do you bill as like a retainer? Like you just get the same amount every month, or do you bill hourly, or do you go in like in-house as like a fractional employee? And so there's like a million different ways to sort of structure working for yourself in a client relationship. I would say you have to sort of do what works for you. I got to know myself and realized that I can't be on a retainer because I will just work a million hours and get paid nothing. And then it's unfair
like a retainer
to me.
Must be hard unless you have very kind of like lax.
And you have to have good boundaries, like really good boundaries to be like, this is all I'm working for this month on my retainer, and like say no to the other stuff. I just can't. I'm not very good at setting those.
This is our people pleasing thing.
Yes, no, it comes.
So if
back
you're a
to
people pleaser, don't go on a retainer.
Episode 3. If you're a people pleaser, don't do a retainer. So now I do hourly, which I prefer, and I'm very conscious like about and then I feel like I'm like, okay, that I'm working these hours, and then I shut it off because I'm like, I'm not getting paid for these hours that I'm not working. It's a little murky because look, some of my best ideas for my clients come when I'm not working, right? Like when I'm
of course
on a walk, or when I'm like after a workout, or et cetera, or I'm in the shower, like just, and I'm never going to bill for that. It's just more like the fact of like knowing that like that's the work time, and then being able to set at least some sort of boundary around that. So that was the other point I wanted to make about how to think about structuring, and you got to know yourself to know how to structure it. I think
the two ones that I really like are like the daily rate, or the hourly rate.
Yes, agree.
At least I haven't worked with so many people, but I feel like that works well because it's just like clear. It's like, okay, this is what I was able to do in these hours, or it's like we can tackle all of this stuff in one day, and we'll charge you our daily rate.
Exactly.
And then it's just like clear cut. I feel like when you pay someone a certain amount a month, it gets a little murky of like, okay, what exactly is going to happen? You don't, at least from my perspective, it's hard to tell like what actually is happening on the other side. I don't know.
It's much more of an agency model. Like if you hire an agency and like marketing, PR, growth marketing, like most of them are on retainers. Yeah. But I think that's the different setup than when you're like just you and working for yourself. So I think it depends on what works for you. So,
okay. Well, so before you send in your resignation letters, just kidding, make sure it's intentional. And I don't know, let us know if these types of topics are interesting to you guys.
And if you guys have questions on this, also like feel free to DM us, and we're happy to help as well.
I don't know. I feel like we have a lot of stuff like going forward for the podcast. We have lots of different things we can keep. We can talk about the France stuff too, but I feel like we have started to have talked about a lot of things in France. So let us know what other types of topics. Is it like motherhood? Is it everything? Is it friendships? Is it
we're work? Open. We're happy to talk about a lot.
We love to talk about things. Is it like products you like? I don't know. I feel like we have a lot to share.
We also had one of like spend a weekend with us in Provence. Not like that one. I mean, they can literally visit us, but also just like
I think that could be
what
really
does
fun.
It look like? What are all the cool places that we would recommend going? So let us know what you guys think. And yes, we'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye.